Please rise and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Clerk, could I have a roll call, please?
Alderman Bowman.
Present.
Alderman Bockelman. Here. Alderman Reese.
Here.
Alderman Milner.
Present.
Alderman Dickerson.
Here.
Alderman Long.
Present.
Alderman Turner. Alderman Turner. Here. Alderman Levinson.
Here.
And Mayor Hassan.
Here, we do have a quorum. Somebody please pinch Alderman Turner and make sure he's awake.
Go ahead, Justin.
All right, good evening, everyone. We do have a ceremonial matter tonight. I have a proclamation to read tonight for Constitution Week 2018. I recognize you, Daughters of the American Revolution. Would you like to join me up here?
Sure.
Absolutely, absolutely. All right. Whereas September 17th, 2018 marks 231st anniversary of the drafting of the Constitution of the United States of America by the Constitutional Convention, and whereas it is fitting and proper to accord official recognition to this magnificent document in its memorable anniversary and to the patriotic celebrations which will commemorate the occasion, whereas Public Law 915 guarantees the issuing of a proclamation each year by the President of the United States of America designating September 17th through the 23rd as Constitution Week. Now, therefore, I, Brian Hassick, by the virtue of the authority vested in me as the Mayor of the City of Harrisonville, Missouri, do hereby proclaim the week of September 17th through the 23rd as Constitution Week 2018, and ask our citizens to reaffirm the ideals of the framers of the Constitution had in 1787 by vigilantly protecting the freedoms guaranteed to us through this guardian of our liberties, remembering that lost rights may never be regained. I would like to present this to you because I know that you are definitely a representative of our Constitution. I much appreciate you being here. I like your pin, by the way.
Oh, the pin, the bluebird pin?
Yeah.
Well, our new state regent, this is her symbol, it's the bluebird of happiness.
Well, there you go. There you go. Well, thank you very much. All right. Very good.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, at this time, I will open the floor to public participation. Anybody who has anything to bring before this board that is not on our already scheduled agenda, please feel free to step forward at this time. Please be sure you provide your name and information to the clerk.
Good evening, my name is Jack Hopkins. Need my address?
Yeah, if you could provide, yeah.
309 Johnston Drive, Raymore, Missouri. I'm also president of Community Bank of Raymore. Excuse me, I've got a little cold this evening.
That's all right.
Thank you all for the opportunity to speak to you today. Thank you for everything you do for the city of Harrisonville. I'm appearing this evening to ask you to vote against the recommendation of your Finance Committee and award the City of Harrisonville's banking services contract to Community Bank of Raymore for another 3 years. The proposal presented by Community Bank of Raymore clearly best meets the evaluation criteria set out in your RFP. The proposal offers the city the least cost and most earned interest over the term of the contract and best meets the needs of the city as outlined in the RFP. Okay, you're probably wondering how I can stand up here and make those comments. For those of you in the Finance Committee meeting, you probably had to have a feeling that there was something we kind of left out as we discussed that. Didn't talk about the cost. I don't believe you've been presented today the cost of the proposal you're being asked to consider. I think there's other things. You are basically presenting information that's misleading, is lacking complete detail, and the costs were totally missing. First, I hope that you all did read the email that I sent you last week. And I hope you'd agree that the strengths and the weaknesses included in an analysis prepared by Debbie Phelps was misleading and inaccurate. yet her report is included in the information you presented for consideration this evening. Several other items she raised during the Finance Committee meeting ignore the fact that the city only sends out recurring wire transfers, and that every check that the city issues has a bank routing number and a bank account number on it. What might be more telling about it, if you think about it, the analysis fails to even quantify the cost differential between the two proposals. Furthermore, it fails to mention the difference in interest earning potential between the two proposals. Community Bank Raymore is offered to provide banking services to the city for free and to pay interest at a rate of Fed funds rate minus 0.25% on the entire ledger balance of the city's accounts. You might compare and contrast that if you had the information available to you with the proposal you're being asked to approve. You're being asked to pay for every check you write, every deposit you make, every check you purchase for writing, every single transaction you do, which will amount to thousands of dollars over the term of the contract. You're also going to be receiving less in interest than what you've been receiving historically and what you would be receiving under the Community Bank of Raymore proposal. Under the proposal you're being asked to approve, you're going to get 60% of the Fed funds target rate, but you're not going to get that on the full ledger balance. You're not going to get credit until the day after you make a normal check deposit, and you're going to have to hold out reserve requirements, and on and on and on. You're going to have sweeps every night, but again, the rate's going to be, today it'd be about 0.75% less, 70 basis points less than what our rate would be. I'm not sure I've ever seen a city consider a contract proposal where the price wasn't quantified, and where comparisons weren't made by multiple proposals under consideration. Your RFP asked for those items, and it was included in what you received. Why wasn't it included for your consideration this evening? The final comments in Marcella McCoy's memo that was to you dated August 2nd comes down to, quote, Commerce is a large regional bank that provides layers of security and more geographic diversification. Commerce is also has a larger asset base that will be beneficial should some unforeseen tragedy occur, end quote. Well, Commerce Bank is a larger bank than Community Bank, I'll admit that. Just like Kansas City is bigger than Harrisonville. That's not a criteria that's included in your RFP, and I don't think any of us have chosen to move to Kansas City just because it's larger. Please remember that the city's funds with either bank will be fully secured and at no risk for loss. Both banks are state chartered institutions and maintain security and disaster recovery plans that are reviewed by the same regulators and carry insurance to cover any cost about any other type of conceivable loss. The comments made in this memo would seem to just be a feeble attempt to justify the recommendation to go with the alternative proposal. In summary, you've received two proposals from two good banks. Both financial institutions can meet your needs. I'm asking you to please use the evaluation criteria included in your own RFP and award the contract for the city's banking services to Community Bank of Raymore. I'm asking you to not buy a pig in a poke, and I think that's what you're being asked to do tonight. I'd be happy to answer any questions about my comments this evening or the email that I sent you earlier. Or if not, thank you again for the opportunity to get up and address you this evening.
Anybody have any questions?
When did you send out that email? Was that today?
It was last week, I believe it was last Monday possibly.
Right. Aaron will be able to talk about this in the discussion part when we're discussing this. Won't he be able to come up and talk about it and present his side at that time?
I don't think we were planning on having either side present. If they needed to present something, it had to be during public participation.
Okay.
That's why he came up during public participation. The discussion period was at committee. You had the information from there and the information in your packet. There won't be a discussion during the resolution.
Okay, so Aaron needs to present his side.
If he has something he'd like to speak of, yes, they would. Anybody who want to speak can do a public participation, correct? Any questions for this gentleman?
Thank you again.
Thank you, appreciate it.
evening. My name is Aaron Raines. I'm the community president for Commerce Bank here in Harrisonville.
Aaron, can you be sure to give your address to
It's
Randy?
2009 West Wind, Missouri. And I just want to comment on a few things that Jack said. And clearly you guys know there is two bids that are extreme differences. One's paying interest, one is based on free services. A lot of those services, in my opinion, are very manual services, such as online banking that you guys probably all use. A lot of these services are very basic. They are a good bank, and they are basically your account. That what you're getting there is an interest account that is your main objective, is to increase your earnings. With our proposal, what we are focused on, based on conversations with the city staff, and the bid that was put out to us was basically what we was hearing is they were looking for, with the audit that we had, some concerns were some dual controls, greater enhanced security, and then also some efficiencies that I think we can provide. A lot of these efficiencies are in the commercial platform system called Commerce Connections. Commerce Connections allows any commercial customer to log into our system, and essentially they're going to do a lot of the duties they're doing now once, as opposed to maybe multiple times, without getting into the nuts and bolts of such as positive pay. Basically, a lot of these files are uploaded electronically, and they're going to basically cover two needs. So again, once they're logged in, they're going to do a lot of the wires, a lot of the services they're going to their bank to do manually. They're going to be able to do electronically from their computers here at work. A lot of the automations we're going to also be able to bring is such as account reconciliation. Rather than somebody manually reconciling the account, there's hundreds, if not hundreds of items that are going to be reconciled monthly. These items are going to be an option for them to get this on a CD or email to them. So there's going to be some greater efficiencies. I did not come here to tell you that we have the better deal. I think Community Bank's a great bank. Jack's a great banker. He's very smart. We've got a great product as well. You're going to increase your earnings possibly with option A. You're going to get greater automation services and with option B. And we hope to, what the goal is for us to be able to offer you all this in lieu of paying a fee. You're going to use our earnings credit to offset it. However, we are right there at the point where if you are if you're going the interest route, you're probably going to be about a wash, meaning the earnings credit rate had been the rates have been so low for so long, we had inflated earnings credit to help offset our public fund entities' fees. So now we're finally getting back, market yields are coming back, and even with the Fed funds, as Jack mentioned, a quarter under prime is where he was at. We are at 60% of Fed funds target, so we're about 120. There is I think I would correct that if I was following you right, a 45 basis point difference. But our goal is to get it to where your fees are offset by your interest or your earnings credit, whichever we go with. We did give two options just so that it's clear, and that's maybe something to hash out with Marcella and Debbie. But my goal is to make sure that we're not charging you a fee for your services, and we'll work towards keeping that to a free status. So if anybody has any questions, I'd be glad to answer specifics.
Any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak this evening?
Morse code 908 East Purple.
First off, you announced that this is Constitutional Week. Well, tomorrow is an election, guys. And Thursday, we had already registered in over 1,600 absentee ballots. So it's gonna be quite a race this year. And second, I've got a question. When are we gonna get the June collection report?
So everybody's back from vacation now, we should be able to produce that in July pretty quickly.
Exactly. That is the hope. There were some questions and some target pieces. We want to make sure it went out completely accurate. You know, so Tammy found those while Debbie was on vacation. And then when Debbie was back, Tammy was on vacation. So we're trying to make sure that everybody's talked about that and it goes out completely accurate. And so it will be posted. And as soon as the July sales tax comes in later this week, then we should be able to turn that around to do July as well.
Well, as you know, I'm quite interested in that, so.
So
Thank you.
we want it to be right, Mr. Goldberg. Yeah, we want it to be right.
All right, very good. Anyone else this evening?
My name is Beverly Bloomington. My address is 7216 Rhineegg in Belton, Missouri. And I am the Executive Vice President, CFO for Community Bank of Raymore, and really only want to be up here to, in my mind, clarify. I really wasn't prepared. I don't have a sound speech, but I do want to clarify a couple of things in that our process. I think there's a lot of focus on wire transfers and templates and things that are easy to do at Commerce, and that they're manual with Community Bank of Raymore, and that is not the case. It is electronic as well. We have just gone through a conversion on the 16th of July, and we do have the capability for those wire transfers. We can build templates. We can do it the way that Commerce is doing it today. In the past, a few years that we have done the account for the city, we have been receiving the information and doing callbacks, and had the opportunity then, if we had known, to be able to do that in a more electronic fashion. But in the comment that we are manual, it really is, we are really not manual, that we can do that. In trying to address that, with Commerce you do have all of those fees, and they do have the earnings credit that will make a difference on the fees that the city account will be assessed, and lower those fees. You don't have that issue with us. We're not going to count the checks. We're not going to count any of those items. We did request under the Sunshine Law a look at the RFP, where we were able to see that late in the day, and we thank you for getting that to us. There isn't any worry that you have to do with us today, going in the future. We don't have any fees, and we are going to pay whatever that Fed fund rate is on a daily basis, and we are 25 basis points below that. So if you would do what the RFP was set out to do and assess those service charges and compare what you requested, then when you look at that, we're free, we're paying higher interest, and it really is a bigger benefit. I like to comment that you have us, Jack Hopkins and myself, for the past number of years that the city account has been with us, has been points of contact. We can get something accomplished, we can get something done. All you have to do is let us know. We're here, we live in Cass County, you know, we're local. We might be smaller, Commerce is a great bank, but so is Community Bank of Raymore. We would love to maintain your business for the next 3 years. And if there's anything at all that we can answer further, we would be more than happy to. We just kind of ask that you do consider the items in the RFP and use that as the basis, based on what the RFP requested and not other items that really weren't addressed specifically. So I thank you for your time and the opportunity to speak. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else this evening?
Hi there. My name's Tony Purtle, live at 707 South Main. We have a bit of a drug problem here in Harrisonville. And I got 2 houses within a block of me, and I'm getting real tired of dealing with them walking up down the street and hanging out on the side of the house. I've called the police a few times. I know they know one of them by name, John Howe or Hall, something like that. But, me and him has been butting heads pretty good lately. My wife, excuse me, not my old lady, is concerned about
Good choice.
vandalism to one of our properties, one of the cars or something. That would probably push me right over the edge if that happened, and I hold somebody personally responsible for it, but something needs to be done. And you're picking up syringes. I do a lot of work here in town. I work for Beauchamps Mowing. We pick up syringes, down, I've even called the police a couple of times, or once, down there in Lord's Park, come down and get something that we found laying down there, and it's just pitiful. Something needs to be done. They hang out in the convenience stores and Burger Kings, and you gotta think what people stopping in here traveling, what they're thinking when they got 4 or 5 of these sitting in our restaurants or in our convenience stores. I just don't think it looks good for the town. Besides the fact of them breaking into cars, breaking into houses, it's just a nuisance. And I'm not really sure what to do, but, because I probably wouldn't handle it the correct way, but something needs to be done about it. I'm hoping maybe you all or somebody can help. I'd be more than willing to, do something if somebody's got some kind of ideas.
Well, I could be corrected if I'm wrong. My understanding from visiting with some of the officers over the years is there's a lot of things, drugs is one of them, that our courts are kind of pushing them back out into the public. They're not really prosecuting people, too busy for this, too busy for that. I get the report that, yeah, we've busted the same person 6 times for the same crime. So we definitely have a problem all the way up the chain. It's not, when they do get arrested, what happens to them once they're arrested? Are they immediately put back out to do exactly what they're doing?
Right back out on the street again.
Right, so it's a large problem, and I've thought to myself, what's the fix-all? I don't know. I wish I had it, because
Lynch them and drag them out of town. It's just a problem.
It is.
I wanted to come up and say something because I'm getting real tired of it, and Mr. John or whatever, he's attempted to provoke me a few times, but every time I head towards him, he takes off on his bicycle down the street. And I'm just getting tired of it. We need to do something before somebody like me winds up sitting in jail because I slapped somebody because they're ignorant. I hope somebody can help. We come up with some ideas or something to do something about it. Because, especially with the syringes laying around, think your kid getting poked by one of them. I probably don't dispose of them properly, but I'll pick them up and put them in an empty jug that we got in the truck there and put the lid back on them when they should be disposed of medically. But, it's a problem, and we need to look into it somehow.
Alderman Bachman, do you have a comment?
I've had 2 people approach me on the same subject.
Can you use your microphone? Sure. Okay. Do it anyway.
I've had 2 people approach me on the same subject. Is there anything we can do at the city level, like at least meet and talk to these people, and possibly, I don't know what we do at the committee level?
Meet with the people like him
Like
that have come up here. It's possible. The community, getting the community engaged is definitely, you coming up here is definitely a start. The more people speak up, it's kind of the squeaky wheel gets the grease in.
Right.
I've seen some traffic on Facebook about drug problem around town, and I think more the word gets around that people are paying attention. I think it's, again, like I say, if they're not getting held accountable, they're just running right back out doing the same thing. And so I'm not sure, the committee would, that might be a way to go.
A meeting with you and Mr. Welch and these other people, and definitely invite this gentleman. Just an informal meeting.
Nothing could hurt.
Okay.
So
Maybe something will come out of it.
I'm on board. I know that I have a couple drug houses around where I live, and I was kind of shocked to find it out, but I've spoken with the narcotics officer here in town. He's a wonderful man, and he really wants to know. The information, if you know that these houses, they're dealing drugs out of them, they really do care, and there are people out there that really do want to know, and they're watching them. So I know that it's a struggle because they will put them right back out on the street, and they have to be caught so many times within a certain time period. so that they actually will go away and stay away. It is a struggle
Well,
though.
she makes a good point too. I know that we had trouble once with drugs close to us, and it took us working closely with law enforcement, calling them, you know, hey, now'd be a good time to come
To drive
by. And even when they finally did get a search warrant, it was only a limited area because of, you know, the owner of the house claimed it was just a rental deal, but they weren't able to search the entire premises. But they wouldn't have even gotten that if we hadn't constantly been in communication, and that might be one of the things that come up is you know, encourage people, hey, communicate when, as soon as you know something's going on, let them know right then and there, because it, like I say, if we hadn't called, they wouldn't have known to be there at the right time to catch them in the act. And
Right.
I know they've got, again, that goes back to their hands get tied on what burden of proof they have to even arrest the person. It's
Right.
ridiculous. I mean, you
I know, it seems like the law works more for the criminal than it does for the
sometimes it does seem that way.
But I've called them a couple times, or at least once last week, because come home and well, Tuesday night, my dogs woke me up and there's one cut across my front yard. I'm sure he'd been checking the doors because my neighbor's dogs were barking doors on our vehicles. And I ran to the back to see, I was gonna try to figure out who it was. Well, apparently he went straight across to the other house. And I come home from work the next day, and there was two of them sitting out there in the car on the side of the house, and after about 30 minutes, I finally called the police, and they come out. But you get tired of calling them because they really can't do nothing about it, but I guess, I hate to bother y'all more, but
That's,
because they'll come up and stand out there on the street corner waiting for the guy to get home for 20, 30 minutes sometimes. And
but, you know, that's kind of, like I said, goes back, that's kind of the way it worked for us. We had to call, and I mean, we finally managed to
run around the neighborhood
yeah,
at least.
basically, yeah. Well, they kind of ran themselves out, but yeah, I mean, it was, they realized that we were, you know, somebody, they didn't know who was watching, obviously. We didn't advertise that, oh, hey, we called the cops on you.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think they pretty much know because I've had words with them out in the front yard, some of them, you know.
Yep.
It's just the way I am though.
Yeah.
You know, I think they need to get out of town, or get out of my neighborhood at least, but then still in the town here.
Yeah.
Well, thank you all for your time.
Thank you.
Just give me a holler.
All right.
Sir, I would make one recommendation that, I'm not, you know, I'm the city attorney, not the city prosecutor, and not the county prosecutor, but a lot of times when they're going to get search warrants, you know, the police aren't always there when things are happening. If you have a camera, take pictures.
Okay.
Take some photographs. It may or may not be helpful, but sometimes you may catch something in a photograph that if the police had it, that would justify a more stronger search warrant to do a better job of trying to crack down on them.
I have talked to my wife about putting cameras outside on the house.
We got license plate numbers is what we did. Any car we weren't sure of, we got the license plate and what it was, just to, you know, it may end up being nothing, but like I
Right.
said, all it takes is that one time and it was worth
I'll
it.
keep that in mind. I hadn't really thought about that.
Yep.
I don't know if my camera will take a picture that far, but I'll walk out there and take one.
There you go.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Very good.
Mr. Mayor, comment, please.
Yes.
I think all 4 wards, all of the aldermen have had questions and contacting their constituents about the drug issue in the city. And I appreciate my colleague Bockelman and Levson for suggesting a roundtable discussion. I do feel it's important that all of the aldermen be present at that because we're all faced with that dilemma. Instead of just a couple of aldermen, I would suggest perhaps a work session where everyone could be in attendance. Thank you.
Okay. Yes, sir.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening. How are you?
Everybody probably knows me or remembers me. I'm here with my friend and neighbor, Anthony. I think you made a very good point. I also listened to your replies, and I think you all make an excellent one. I think Brad's point is demonstrative. Why do I say this? If you look and you research and you engage in other city communities that have also had experience and share the same problem as we have, no matter the size, for one, it's a metropolitan community, it's still a neighborhood. This is a neighborhood that we're speaking about. This is where I live. This is where some of you people live. Certainly where Anthony lives, and all of you live in certain designated neighborhoods. All of you could have the same problem. This isn't a problem that's isolated, as Judy just recommended. It is a problem that's shared. It's across our country, it's across our state, It's everywhere. What are we talking about? And I think somebody brought it up. We need to circle the wagons, and that's what Anthony's asking for. The police have stood on their own. I've been involved in a certain situation where the police did their job. Did it admirably, they did it quickly, expeditiously, and they got it done. I walked in, when was the court date? Not to have. Why? Because the prosecuting attorney decided not to prosecute outside of their responsibility, outside of my own, until I became the taxpayer. And I looked for restitution because of my taxes. It's an important concept. We need to express it better, and we need to express it well. I'm here as a taxpayer, I'm here as a property owner, I'm here as a neighbor, and I'm here as a member of this community. This is a problem. I don't care who the name is. This is a problem after today. This is a problem after next week. It's a problem after next year. What we have to learn is that we all have to work together. So what we need is a real estate mechanism. We need a prosecuting mechanism. And we need a judge that I know the name of that doesn't take them and slap their hands and put them back out because he wants them to what? Reconvene their moral majority within themselves for the good and health and wealth of a community they have no interest in. This is a very big problem. This judge does not live in our community. He does not have any interest in our community. Yet he feels compelled to find the moral majority within each one of these individuals. And he rests his responsibility and our commitment to their decision to make good on themselves. Is this a bet that you all want to make every day that he does this? I do not. I've seen those bets go awry time and time again. I have called, I have spent 4 hours battening up my house before I left for a European vacation. Why? Because I know 2 individuals that know my house. And my bet is that when those lights go dark, they will get interested. They cross through my property every single time. I have chased them on bicycles. I'm probably the only one in this community who can probably beat them on a bicycle. So it's advantageous for me to say, I don't want to have a bicycle race anymore. We need to circle the wagons. That's the concept that every community finally has to deal with. Mr. Bockelman, Ms. Bowman, anyone else here who's made a comment is enlivening that discussion. This isn't about the police. The police have always been our knights in armor. We've never had a problem with that. This isn't about us identifying with the neighborhood and saying, oh, you know, we're going to help, we're going to help. I've identified with that. It's more about all of us recognizing the need to circle the wagons. We have to do this legally, we have to do this prosecutorially, and we have to do it through influence. And the influence rests with saying no. I don't care if you put them away for 1 day. I don't care if you put them away for 1 month. I don't care if you put them away for 1 year. That's 1 day, 1 month, and 1 year. They're not crossing my property, my neighbor's property, or anyone else's property in any neighborhood in this community. This moratorium on where we can't afford to house them has got to stop. It is a cost. It is a burden. Anytime that you make a decision that you have to lock your house, that's a cost. Your costs are increasing dramatically. Anytime you walk away and you think I've made a mistake, it's a big mistake. It's not a small mistake anymore because they're there. The participants, to take advantage of your mistake, are there. And they're every single hour, whether it's the daytime, the nighttime, whatever. This is no more about mischief makers. These are people that are costing you. They're costing you time. They're costing you the ability to relax during your off time. Every time that you have to worry about something around your house, on your property, or in your car, or about your car or your truck, it's a cost. And these people are costing you. But it's not just them. It's the person that is allocating time for the worthiness and moral accent. This must be dealt with. We must have more influence on those persons or people or person who says that the moral indifference is not so in these people. And I say, you're wrong, and you need to know it from all of us. We cannot have this anymore. Thank you.
Thank you. What else would like to speak this evening? Seeing no one, I will close public participation. We'll move on to the approval of the minutes. First tonight, we have the minutes from the Board of Aldermen regular meeting, July 2nd, 2018.
Make a motion to approve.
Second?
A motion from Alderman Dickerson and a second from Alderman Levison for approval. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes are approved. Next, we have the Board of Aldermen special meeting on July 5th, 2018.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion from Alderman Milner, second from Alderman Turner for approval. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes are approved. Last, we have the minutes from the executive session of July 5th, 2018.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion from Alderman Dickerson and a second from Alderman Levison for approval. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Minutes are approved. Moving on to our agenda items. First tonight, we have the Harrisonville Public School Foundation 5K Walk and Run event. Good evening, Mr. Murray.
Mr. Mayor. First one up we have is the approval for a special use permit. You guys have seen this one many times in the past. It's for the Harrisonville Public School Foundation 5K Walk Run event. It's scheduled for September 29th, 2018 from 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. Applicant would be Jill Filer, the Executive Director of the Harrisonville Public School Foundation. She's requesting a parade event permit or a special use permit to host the 5K Walk Run. It's been hosted since 2008 with no noted complaints or concerns. The requested event is a scheduled fundraiser for the Harrisonville Public School Foundation and the Christina Collins Memorial Scholarship. The only assistance they've requested is the normal, the traffic control, a marked patrol unit from on-duty personnel, or the VIPs will lead the, it says runners, but runners, walkers during the event. The applicant has secured volunteers to monitor and block intersections as needed for the event. Registration will begin at the high school at 7 a.m. with the event starting at approximately 800 hours. Race is estimated to be completed in about an hour, and I believe that's usually about the time frame we've always done in the past. They have the proposed route. I don't know if you want me to go through all the routes, but the routes go that way. It's in your packet, and then it reverses on its way back and into the high school. No cost to the city services. Required insurance coverage will be submitted to the city by the applicant should the permit be approved. Recommendation from us is no noted complaints in the past. As long as they're following state law, city ordinances, we say yes.
Okay. Any questions?
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion from Alderman Milner and a second from Alderman Turner for approval. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Event is approved. Next, we have the 2018 Trunk or Treat event.
Another good one we've done. I think it's 6 years now. This one's 7.
This is the 7th. Yeah,
Seven.
yeah. So it is 6 years. I apologize. It's all the 7.
Not mathematicians.
I'm not either.
This is slated for October 28th from 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. The last 6 years been held on the square without any noted problems, complaints, or concerns. It is a very popular one. They line up for quite a ways to get in on Trunk or Treat. In speaking with the applicant, there's no requested city services other than the use of the square, which will have to be completely blocked off due to the small children and all the foot traffic. Street department will have staff on hand to set up and tear down, and that's an estimated cost of the city for $275 for their time to set everything up and tear it down. Our recommendations, because there has been no complaints or concerns in the past, is that you guys would approve that.
Okay. Any questions?
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion from Alderman Turner and a second from Alderman Bowman for approval. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It is approved. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
All right, next, we have our September meeting.
Labor Day is the first Monday of September, always is. That's always the first meeting of the month, and then this year, MML is the third week of September. So there are a number of board members that will be gone that Monday. So we need to schedule a meeting or two. I know what we've planned for our budget is that on the 24th, the last Monday of the month, we'll have our department heads come in and talk about budget. So you've got a meeting definitely scheduled for that evening as a work session. So I would recommend that we do one meeting in September, and do it on the 10th.
Not have a second meeting or have it reserved for that work session if we felt we needed it.
Yeah.
So 9/24 would be if we needed something.
Yeah, I'm hoping we can avoid that.
Okay. So the suggestion would be to move the meeting on the first Monday to the second Monday, which is September 10th. And then we'll have a work session on the 24th and reserve that if we need, something arises, but at this point have just one meeting. Anybody have anything different? Yeah, we need a motion.
Make a motion that we do that.
Okay. I have a motion from Alderman Dickerson and a second from Alderman Long to hold our first meeting on September 10th and to not have a meeting, a second meeting that month. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, approved. We'll have one meeting next month. All right, next item we have is the 2018 dash camera video replacement for the TV.
Welcome back.
And
I know, see.
I guess I should have just stood here. I didn't know you had. This is, I assume in your packets, there is a letter that I had addressed to the chief. I've been employed in the city of Harrisonville as a police officer since 2002. 2003, I began assisting and ended up doing on my own all the construction of the cars, maintaining all the equipment, installing all the equipment. I have since not, I don't do one anymore because my body can't do it. So I have a pretty intimate working knowledge of these camera systems. What he's presented is it's a purchase. The 2018 budget contains $30,600 for the replacement of 6 L3 mobile vision dash cameras for the police department. These would be the cars, not the body cams. We've recently received a quote from L3 for the dash cameras in the amount of $3,767.56 per camera. At that quoted price, we'd be able to purchase 8 instead of 6 and remain under the budgeted amount. In the packet, I also have a matrix in here that kind of gets into what we're going to cover. It would be a sole source purchase and will not go out for bids because the dash cameras or body cameras, the server, everything on the back end is all one thing. It's not something you can jump around and use different vendors for. That would be extremely expensive. L3 has always said the life expectancy on their dash cameras is about 5 years. I know for a fact that we have 2, they went from, they're called flashbacks. So, the original was flashback 1, 2, 3, the different generations, kind of like a phone. We have at least 3 flashback 2s that were manufactured in 2009. So we've been extremely fortunate that they haven't failed, but I sent him this letter because I'm now getting tasked often of downing our cars because the cameras are starting to fail at a terrible rate. Not one here, one there, it's 3 at a time, your cars are down for, I mean, if I have to pull the camera and ship it back, I mean, your car could be down upwards of a month or more. You could get the camera back and it's of no value. So now it's down and you're gonna have to get a replacement. So basically we're requesting to utilize that additional money, still staying under budget, to replace 8, which would put us more back in line on a rotation basis of these things being replaced. Packet has the original quote for the 6 of $22,605, so that additional money would be to pick up 2 more additional to get us about as close as we can to being very current on the equipment.
Lieutenant, is the L3 the most modern current unit that's available?
There's several vendors out there.
But I mean, with this vendor?
Yes.
So this
Yes,
is,
it would be a, they're HD now. 720 to 1080p is what we put out. We have 3 or 4 of the flashback 3s that should be getting us a little further, and I have one that's at 4 years and it's got to be pulled out to be sent back. hopefully under warranty, but if not, that'll be at a cost. So we're kind of behind the 8 ball with as many of the flashback 2s, and they're just gonna start dying in droves, and we're gonna be in trouble.
And these are the ones that are compatible with the body cameras?
Yes.
Yes, thank you.
It's all proprietary.
I'm curious, because you mentioned that when the camera's out, the car is down. What is our set policy on, when are the cameras on, when are they off? Are they constantly recording everything in the car? Is there a time when you're?
Any contact with the public, but we've went a little further than that. If you're doing building checks, things of that nature, vehicle lockouts, we require that they be activated.
What if you were exercising a search warrant or something along that lines? Would
That's
that considered like a check, a building check? I mean, does that fall under that too?
yes.
Okay.
For search warrants, you're getting into more handheld camcorder type units like that.
Well, I mean, on the premise, I mean, you pull up to the premise, I mean, or it could be a drug bust or something of that,
Yes.
that nature.
And anytime you may have an anticipation that you're going to do something, you're to activate I mean, there's human error in there.
Mhm.
Sometimes things happen like that. So now they're required to activate the vehicle cameras, and they also have to remember to activate the body cameras as well.
Now, is there anything that would allow them to turn that off, or that allows them to turn that off? I mean, say you have, I mean, is there,
Sure.
is it a discretion thing, or is it something that specifies, you know, if you pull up and you're having contact, the expectation would be that the camera's on.
Correct.
And there is some type of video being recorded at that time. Is there anything that would justify that?
I would have to refer back to policy. From what I remember in past, it was as long as the contact is going, you stay recording.
Okay.
There's been a little bit of change up in there where, you know, when is it okay to mute? We still don't encourage turning off because that just doesn't look right.
Mhm.
We hear things for face value, we're as transparent as we can be. Turning it off, perception's reality.
Mhm.
We don't want people thinking that we're doing something we're not supposed to, so.
No.
99.9% of the time, it just runs through.
Now, how long
Until
do
it gets into it.
how long do we keep these videos? Are they always downloaded if it's running, or is it kind of they have to be reviewed? How does that work, that end of it, do you know? Well,
So on the back end on the server, I want to say those are held for 1 to 3 years, then it's archived.
okay.
And when it archives, it gets burnt to a disk, and I couldn't tell you the sunshine law requirements on how many years we keep that.
Okay.
And most things that are not constituted as a criminal offense or anything that's involved in the case, I think after about 60 to 90 days, I think it gets purged from the system on its own.
Okay.
Vehicle lockouts, about 90 days later, they're gone.
Okay, okay, so not everything has to be, you know, if you, like, that's a good example, you put this on for that, but that's not really something you would need. Okay, very good. Any other questions? Have a motion for approval.
Second.
Alderman Dickerson, and a second from Alderman Milner. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, they are approved.
Thank you, guys.
That's 8 and not 6. All right, next item we have is the property recommendations.
So we talked about this in a closed session, about the various properties that we have around town and what the board felt going forward you'd like to do with them. So the board requested that I bring some recommendations. I brought those forward. If you'd like for me to go through each one of them, or if you'd like to talk about them as a group or individually, any particular questions. We do have some vacant property that we could look at using to look to sell for residential. We've got some existing properties that we talked specifically about the North Lake. A number of comments came into the office. It appears that North Lake will remain part of Harrisonville. We won't look to sell. From a number of the board members, they'd rather keep it, and then I would recommend that we look at trying to improve it in the future. Maybe another area of recreation. We might want to get out from under the agreement with the Department of Natural Resources, so we can put a porta potty out there, something that we can maintain a little bit easier than the existing bathrooms, but we can discuss that in the future as well. Because I think we're past the point that we can get out of that contract with DNR for this year. So we might as well just stay in it for another year. And it runs on a yearly schedule anyway.
And prior to that, it was a 20-year, is that
25.
25?
Yeah.
Okay, just so everybody knows, that's what spawned the discussion about North Lake to begin with, is the contract with DNR that we had for the 25 years was expiring. So it kind of spawned a conversation about what do we want to do with this lake. It's first time in 25 years we can consider something, and that's how the discussion got started. It wasn't somebody had some master plan to get rid of that or do whatever, but that was just one of the things, options that was thrown at, would you want to sell the lake? Nobody was really in favor of selling the lake. The big problem out there is the restroom facility they have us provide. There's a lot of opportunity for people to throw things in there that don't belong there. The porta potties would be much easier for us to maintain. So anyway, I just want everybody to understand how that came up. It wasn't we're just trying to get rid of it, and I don't think that's something that any of us want to make that decision, because that lake does get a lot of recreation, and a lot of people fish, and I think it's an asset. So that's how that came up.
And that sort of surprised me, so it was good to know. So we've got 3 vacant properties, 605 East Wall Street, 300 and 304 East Mechanic. And my recommendation on those is to look at selling them. It would give us an opportunity to create some potential homes that could be built. The property on East Mechanic, it's listed on our maps as government. We don't have a zone as government, so my assumption is that it's a CBD2, which does allow residential, but it also allows business. But you've got a house in between those 2 lots. So my assumption would be somebody would build a couple of houses or utilize it for something else.
So, Mr. Welch, is that the Zeror property at 302?
It is.
And we were going to see if they had an interest in buying either one of these lots first. Have we contacted?
No, I have not. I'm waiting for the board to decide if you want to move forward on that. Then I would contact you.
I think definitely we should. If we do move forward, we should give them first right of refusal.
Any other comments on the recommendations on here? I know there has been interest in some of these vacant lots. There's been a couple builders that are building on these smaller lots since we redid the zoning to allow for the smaller setbacks, and so the interest in these smaller lots has increased. I don't think we will have much trouble selling them. Whatever they come in at, I think they'll sell fairly quickly, to be quite honest, and gets it out of our hair.
So my intention is to get an appraisal on the vacant lots. On the others, I've kind of put in what we can look at doing with them, like the electrical and water buildings down on Independence. There needs to be some work done on them, but we've had some people look at them, ideas. It's just, there's a lot of old paint and junk that's still left inside that has not been cleaned out, that we need to look at removing. So that'll take some work before I think it's ready for somebody to do anything with. Police department next door, the old police department, police still want to use that back garage area to store vehicles, but we need to do something with the front. And if we do decide to do something with City Hall, I can see that expanding to have an annex for the amount of square footage I believe we need to adequately house what the amount of offices that we have here at City Hall, and to create a new space for the board. So we'll look at doing that in the future.
And that building is on the historic register, so there might be some
Issues?
No, there might be credits.
There might be credits, right? Well, tax credits, we're not taxing.
True, but there might be, it might qualify under brownfield as just like wood building, it's hard to say.
But anyway, so at least I've got some direction on how to move forward on this, and I appreciate your looking at it and considering and giving me feedback, especially on North Lake.
Do you need a motion or anything from the board to move forward with any of this, or as it comes up, each item be separate?
Yeah.
So this is just simply a direction on what somebody wants to.
Because we'll have to discuss whenever if we put something out there and get offers in, then we'll have to discuss it further.
Okay. All right.
And you'll reach out to the doors and ask about interest on those?
Yep.
Very good.
Thank you.
All right. Moving on, first Council Bill 47.
Council Bill 47, a resolution authorizing the city administrator to execute a supplemental agreement between the city of Harrisonville, Missouri, the Missouri Department of Transportation, and the Missouri Northern Arkansas Railroad Company, Inc., for the construction of improvements to the railroad crossing on 267th Street.
So you've probably seen the railroad crossing out by ADS. We're looking at, well, we're not, MoDOT's looking at putting in railroad crossings at that intersection now at their cost. MMA will do the installation. The city has been asked to, and feel we can be responsible for putting in railroad crossing ahead signs. So we've been asked to do that.
Oh, I think that would be, it's a safety thing. I think if that's all we have to do, that's a good deal.
We have no maintenance, nothing to do with anything on the railroad itself. It's outside the right of way, so MMA doesn't get off their property to do improvements, so that's why it's left out.
I make a motion we approve.
Motion from Alderman Turner. Second from Alderman Long for approval. Any further discussion? And all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those in favor? Awful
Aye.
quiet. Opposed? All right, and Council Bill 47 will become Resolution R31. Council Bill 48.
Council Bill 48, first reading, an ordinance amending the operating budget for the city of Harrisonville, Missouri for the fiscal year January 1, 2018 through December 31, 2018.
Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor and Board. This evening, we've got in front of you the 2018 budget amendment. A lot of it is just housekeeping, specifically to the CWSS fund for water and sewer services, for contracts that were awarded earlier in the year to clean those up. The majority of this is, we've talked about the sales tax fund. And so sales tax comes into that particular fund right now and is primarily just for, actually it is, just for the parks only, because a couple of years ago we moved the public safety sales tax money back into general fund and back into the emergency services fund. And so what's left in that right now is housing the parks and recreation sales tax, which was very appropriate until the citizens of Harrisonville graciously awarded us the extension of that sales tax indefinitely. And so at this point, with the community center and the operation of the parks, we think it would be better to move that revenue stream into the community center fund, and that debt service that the community center is responsible for this remaining 4 years would be, would be transferred into the debt service fund, which is a mechanic that's required in the governmental accounting services. So that is, again, it's kind of a housekeeping process because it comes in one spot, we transfer it to debt service to make a payment, we transfer it to the community center for operations, to do that. So instead of having transfers that you have to reconcile every year in an audit report, if you have it all come into the community center fund and then transfer the debt service, which is a requirement, until that debt's paid off, and then it will allow us to evaluate those sales taxes and move them forward, with maintaining the community center and the parks and the aquatic center, et cetera. So I think it's a move forward to eventually retire that debt, because that's what's going to happen in the next 4 years. And then Director Deal has asked for additional revenues in a couple of his programs that he's seen a major increase in this year, which was presented to the park board, and they approved that. In return, there's expenditures for that, and then the expenditure for the repairs to the indoor pool, I believe. And so those are also included in the community center fund. So we're going to zero the sales tax fund. It will show up in this 2018 audit report, but then going forward, you won't see it in 2019, nor will it be, except for in, in a historic process in the audit report. And then, like I said, the water and sewer services is just a housekeeping piece for a contract that's already been approved by the board. It was advised at that point that we would do a budget amendment. Still presents a balanced budget as required by law. And any questions, I'll be happy to answer to the best of my ability.
Any questions tonight? Honestly, I'm happy to see revenues up. That's a good thing. All right. This is an ordinance. We've had first reading. So I'll leave it up to the board if you want to wait for a second.
You suspend the rules?
Yeah.
All right, I have a motion from Alderman Dickerson to suspend the ruling and move Council Bill 48 to a second reading. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a second from Alderman Long. Any further discussion? I will need a roll call vote for that, please.
Alderman Bowman,
Aye.
Alderman Bockelman,
Aye.
Alderman Milner,
Aye.
Alderman Reese is absent, Alderman Dickerson,
Aye.
Alderman Long,
Aye.
Alderman Turner,
Aye.
and Alderman Leeperson.
Aye.
All right, second reading, please.
Second reading, Council Bill 48, an ordinance amending the operating budget for the city of Harrisonville, Missouri for the fiscal year January 1, 2018 through December 31, 2018.
Roll call, please.
Alderman Leeperson, Alderman Reese absent, Alderman Dickerson,
Aye.
Alderman Long,
Aye.
Alderman Bowman,
Aye.
Alderman Milner,
Aye.
Alderman Turner,
Aye.
and Alderman Bockelman.
All right, and Council Bill 48 will become Ordinance Bill 3442. Council Bill 49.
Council Bill 49, first reading, an ordinance vacating all that part of the 10-feet alley located within Block 1 of Moody's addition to the city of Harrisonville, Cass County, Missouri, from the north right-of-way line of Forest Avenue extending north to the south right-of-way line of the now abandoned San Francisco Railroad right-of-way.
Good evening.
Mayor, members of the board, this is a vacation to vacate the alley, runs in a north-south direction between Cass Street and Bradley Street, between Forest Avenue and the railroad right-of-way. The subdivision was platted 120 years ago. The alley's never been developed. Probably most of the homeowners who have been mowing it, taking care of it, don't realize it's not part of their property. If each side of the alley, or the valley is vacated, each side, the houses that face toward Bradley will get 5 feet or half of it, and the houses that face on Cass Street will get 5 feet of it. The applicant is Lawrence Smith, who's here. He owns 3.5 lots at the northwest corner of Bradley and Forest, and he's filed another application that will be coming to the Planning Commission in a week, and then to you, the board, to reconfigure and replat those 3.5 lots into 3 lots. Since the alley's never been developed, he's asking that the alley be vacated and that 5 feet be added to the lots on his side. And then, like I said earlier, the other half of the alley would go to the lots on Cass Street. The replat, again, will go to the Planning Commission in a week, and then will come to you as a revised final plat. Notice of the application has been sent as required by our code to the Planning Commission chair, the property owners in the entire block that touch the alley, and it's been posted at City Hall, at the alley, and at the community center. I've had, and I don't know what kind of contact you all might have had, but I've had 2 property owners contact me with questions, but we've received no objections. So by code, you're at liberty to act on this evening. The city engineer, utilities, streets, and our departments reviewed this application that's for vacation that's being considered this evening. We've also spent a considerable amount of time with the replat application that's going to the Planning Commission next week. And we're recommending approval of this tonight, and we'll be recommending approval of the replat when it comes back to you.
Okay. Are there any questions? I will ask, is there anyone here tonight that would want to object to this? I'm assuming they would have spoken public participation. I have heard no objections. Had one question about what the sign was, and once I explained it, they understood it, and thought it was a great idea. So, this is another one, yes, this is an ordinance, so.
I make a motion to suspend the rule and move it to a second reading.
Okay, I have a motion from Alderman Dickerson to suspend the ruling on Council Bill 49 and move it to a second reading.
Second.
A second from Alderman Turner. Any further discussion? I will need a roll call vote, please.
Alderman Long,
Aye.
Alderman Bowman.
Aye.
Alderman Milner.
Aye.
Alderman Dickerson.
Aye.
Alderman Levison.
Aye.
Alderman Reese is absent. Alderman Turner.
Aye.
And Alderman Bachman.
Aye.
All right, second reading, please.
Second reading, Council Bill 49, an ordinance vacating all that part of the 10-feet alley located within Block 1 of Moody's addition to the city of Harrisonville, Cass County, Missouri, from the north right-of-way line of Forest Avenue extending north to the south right-of-way line of the now abandoned San Francisco Railroad right-of-way.
Roll call, please.
Alderman Turner.
Aye.
Alderman Bachman.
Aye.
Alderman Long.
Aye.
Alderman Bowman.
Aye.
Alderman Milner.
Aye.
Alderman Dickerson.
Aye.
Alderman Levison.
Aye.
And Alderman Reese, absent.
All right, and Council Bill 49 will become ordinance 03443. Mr. Smith, we look forward to seeing what you do with that property. Thank you. All right, Council Bill 50.
Council Bill 50, a resolution of the Board of Aldermen authorizing the city administrator to enter into an agreement with Commerce Bank for the city of Harrisonville depository services for a period of 3 years beginning October 1, 2018.
All right. Hello again.
Good evening again. Before you this evening is the banking services contract. We outlined the request for proposals that were sent out right in my office in June. They were opened and evaluated. Debbie Phelps, our accounting specialist, myself, and Mr. Happy Wells, our city administrator, are the ones that evaluated those proposals. Ms. Phelps put together a what they call a SWOT analysis. It's a strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats, in her evaluation of that, and outlined some advantages and disadvantages when those were made public for the Finance Committee. Jack had sent a memo to the entire board and staff outlining his concerns. Him and I had some conversations, which was very helpful, brought to light some of the things that I was unaware of that the bank had an opportunity to do, which was encouraging in that process. They have recently gone through a software conversion, and unfortunately that was not communicated completely with the city, at least not with staff that was totally involved. So we ran up against challenges in the last couple of months which didn't help them, if I can say that, in some of our processes. And we talked through that, we talked about the things that we could do better, the things that could happen as far as communication is concerned, to reach out to each other a little bit about, services that are offered and some different things like that. So that was very helpful to have those communications. In turn, Ms. Phelps has worked with Commerce Bank and some previous employment. Felt because she does this on a regular basis, she can probably tell you exactly what she runs through on a daily basis and some of the challenges that she's run into in the last year to 15 months that she's been working with the city and trying to do those reconciliations and manage some of that. And she just thought there was some opportunities with Commerce to improve those, streamline those, ultimately save her some time and in turn save the city some money. You all heard this evening both sides of the story from the bank, the bank's perspectives on those. At this point, we're kind of, the finance committee met, we talked about this, the recommendation was to bring it before the board, as to recommend Commerce as our, to enter into that contract for banking services. Staff still stands behind that recommendation, just based on some of the interactions that we've had and some of the information that we've shared with you tonight. And it's ultimately, your all's decision on how you want to move forward with this and what we can do to make things better or, help improve efficiencies, which ultimately saves us time and essentially money.
When you say staff, what's the recommendation? Who would staff be?
Staff would be Ms. Phelps, myself, and Mr. Lodge.
I have a couple of questions for you. Looking through this, it says the community bank, one of the disadvantages is the disaster recovery plan. I thought we actually had a copy of that.
Right, and that was some of that communication, again, that came from Jack when he presented that letter to all of us. And when I talked to him, I asked him about the disaster recovery plan, he explained that every bank is required to have those, which was very helpful. It was not included in their RFP initially, it was included, from Commerce. Right or wrong, and we did receive it, so we know it's there, we're very confident in that, knowing that those processes have to be done, just like we know that they're both state chartered banks. It's both of those offer up, I think I stated in my memo, utmost service, in the banking industry. I think either bank can work. It's just a matter of which one can maybe give us a little bit more feel-good feeling. There's some security issues, there's some technology opportunities that Commerce may be able to offer that I'm not 100% sure the community can. So and it's the difference in the sizes of the bank is the only reason why, one might be able to do something different or better or not. I can't say that they would be, but that's just kind of where we're coming from.
So then, the statement I will make is, it probably would have maybe been a good idea to take that bullet point off of that, considering we do have that in our hand. But my second question is, one of them brought up, I can't remember who brought up, money-wise, are they going to save us money? Is it going to cost us more money? That's something that we sitting up here don't have the information about. Are you all I take it you all are comfortable with the amount of differences there's going to be there?
Yes, based on the initial, the evaluations that were done, that Debbie actually spent a lot of time putting that together, and she can speak to it probably more better. Excuse my language. Can speak to it better than I can. Is the cost analysis, and I think Mr. Baines talked about that. Yeah, they outlined some fees, but in turn, there's an opportunity for the interest credits, which would wipe those fees out. So if you look at it like that, and then it comes down to how much more interest can we earn? Is the market going up and we can still gain all the interest that we would normally gain, with leaving everything with community as it is now as a typical interest-bearing account?
Other questions?
Yes, I have a couple questions. How many RFPs were sent out?
RFPs were sent to all, they were posted to the city website, and then a letter went from me personally to every branch here in town.
Every branch of every bank here in
Of every
town?
bank here in town. And so each one of the banks had an opportunity to present an RFP. We received 2.
A couple of other questions. I attended that Finance and Personnel Committee meeting, so I heard all of the discussion. The Community Bank of Raymore has been our bank now for 7 years, and I think they've done us a good job. Would you agree?
In the 2.5 years that I've been here, yes.
Okay. And I think, as Alderman Milner pointed out, I think the information in the packet should be updated to include the things that Mr. Tompkins provided to you. I think the way the packet is written right now, it's the way it was originally when you presented it to the Finance Committee. And I think it should be updated to include, as Alderman Milner pointed out, that Community Bank of Raymore does have a disaster recovery plan. Because that was one of the things that you pointed out to us in the Finance Committee meeting, was that your concern was that if a tornado were to hit Harrisonville, what would happen to our money and how would we pay our bills and the payroll and that sort of thing. The other thing is one member of the Finance Committee said he wanted to make it easier on the staff. And another committee member said, let's see, customer service at both banks was good, but I just want commerce. I'm a little bit troubled, I guess, because I support making things easy for staff, but I think our first requirement is accountability to the taxpayers. And I'm a little bit troubled by not knowing what the fees are going to be that are coming from Commerce Bank.
I can provide those for you.
You can?
Yes.
Can you provide them now, so we all know?
To use that, that's fine.
I think if we're going to make a decision, we should have all the information before us before we make the decision.
My question is, do we have to make a decision tonight, or can we all have some time? Because I think we've kind of rushed things before, and it hasn't turned out so well. I want to know dollar for dollar, like what we're really looking at, instead of just having somebody stand up in front of me and saying, well, you know, we think this will work out, and this is, there's just not enough information for me to sit here and vote either way.
I agree. I agree.
Any other questions?
So do we have to make a decision tonight?
So I would make a motion then that we table the discussion about the awarding the banking contract to our next Board of Alderman meeting.
Yeah, I have a motion. Actually, Judy, can you make a motion to postpone? Because
Postpone.
tabling would mean we would take it up at the end, so if you make
Then
the
I will
motion.
make a motion that we postpone the decision to make a decision regarding the banking contract until our next Board of Alderman meeting, which is August 26th. Is that correct?
Second.
Will that create any issues for you as far as switching things over? Is there any time frame?
The timeframe outlined in the RFP was October 1st. You know, if we choose to migrate, I'm confident that Commerce will work with us if we can't meet that. But I gave myself until October 1st, you know, to have an opportunity to make sure that, you know, we had done complete evaluation, that you all had all the information that you want, need, you know, request. You know, and I'll be happy to provide any of that. Would ask that if you've got questions to please reach out to me to make sure that I can address those.
Well, and I know some, you know, kind of just from the way they spoke earlier, you know, there may be fees here, but depending on the market, so a lot of that we won't know.
Right.
We won't have, you know, that until
And
the
that's, I mean,
market does its thing. So it's still kind of up in the air, but I do think it's a good idea for
Okay,
everybody to see on this.
let me address the motion, and then we can have, I have a motion from Alderman Bowman to postpone the Council Bill 50 till our next regularly scheduled meeting. I need a second.
And I second that.
And a second from Alderman Levison. Is there any further discussion?
in relation.
Giving you a chance.
Well, if I may, please, Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
And to answer Ms. Alderman Miller's question, that is the fact that we don't know what the market's going to do. And keep in mind, when you get this list of fees, these are our best guesstimate. They're based on averages, you know, and so it outlines, this is what we expected, it was asked for in the RFPs, and this was what was presented. You know, so that is something that I think, and I hope that you all enlisted me as a professional staff member, you know, because you trust my judgment and you want that information. I understand that, and I apologize if you didn't get as much as you would like. And so that's the only thing I wish that you would reach out to me with that specific information if you want something, you know. And that information was sent to all, some of it was sent to all of you in Jack's letter. Was one reason why some of it wasn't updated.
Well, and it's not that I don't trust you, I just think because we will have to answer to the community, I think it's best that we see it.
Okay.
And I
Not
didn't
that we
even
want to be
get,
able
I
to
didn't even
get
get
that.
your email. It wasn't even there, and I didn't
Okay.
get Jack's either. So
Okay.
I have very little information, so I can't make a decision.
And I would just agree with what Alderman Miller said. It's not that we're questioning you, and it's not that we have an issue with Community Bank of Fremont or Commerce Bank. The issue is we don't have enough information to make a decision that we're going to be held accountable to the citizens for. That's the bottom line. You know, I'm just hearing that this bank can provide these services and this bank can provide these services. This one will charge nothing and this one will charge more. And I just feel like, you know, when the voters say, why did you do that? I want to be able to have the answer for them. And I think Jack had a comment that he wanted to make.
That was what public participation was. If there's any comments, we can take those up after the meeting. Okay, I have a motion and I have a second. Is there any further discussion?
Myself, when did all this lack of communication come into, after you made your decision?
Basically,
Everything, I mean,
after, you know, and that's what was kind of, you know, and Jack and I had that conversation, is
you got an email a week ago, so.
is the fact that, you know, we had sent out, and it was the publishment of the Finance Committee, I mean, and, you know, they pulled that up, and then he sent that letter to all of us, basically, you know, clarifying the information that was included, you know. And so then we're talking about some of the conversion for the software pieces was another piece, and he's like, I didn't know that, I didn't know that. they've worked for the last 2 weeks trying to correct, as much of that as they can. So it's a matter of, and we've tried to address the updates to the emails so that we do get that information. Debbie knows that she doesn't have access to stuff, the staff members that are working with it on a daily basis are the ones getting that communication. And so, we've worked through that very, very well. I've been very pleased with that. I just wish it would have happened, at the beginning instead of after, basically a decision was made.
I got a question. Okay, originally whenever Mr. Raines come up here and said that there were some issues with the state audit, that their bank would be able to handle whatever, I can't remember exactly what he said or whatever, but something to do with the state audit. Now that Community Bank has clarified some other stuff, are they or will they be in compliance with the state audit?
That's the way I understand it, because we've talked about the dual control specifically
dual control.
specifically to the wire transfers, to be able to do those online. We just need to make sure that all the news gets so that's the way I understand it. I'm not seeing it, so I can't testify personally, but that's the way it's going to work. I'm not sure what process we have to implement on our side to make sure that happens. But I understand that that's available now, and we can.
They're saying it is. Okay. Thank you.
Any other comments? I have a motion and I have a second. I need do we need a roll call vote? No, we don't. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No, aye, whichever one you want.
It'd be a nay. If you're opposed, it's a nay. All right, I only heard one nay, so we will postpone Council Bill 50 until our next regularly scheduled meeting.
Thanks, sir.
All right, and that concludes our agenda tonight. Alderman committee reports. Alderman Bowman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I had the opportunity to volunteer this afternoon with Bright Futures in the Harrisonville schools, their back-to-school fair. I just really am very proud of their work of both entities to certainly make it certain that each and every student in our district has a successful first day of school. It was quite a thing to see. And then secondly, tomorrow is Election Day. I think it's been, Mr. Coburn acknowledged that. It's an important time. It's a primary election, and I would certainly encourage each and every one of you to vote if you haven't already done so absentee. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
There's information going around that somebody has been leaking information from executive session. And I'd like to do something about it, but what? What's the procedure? What do we do from here?
I assume that's directed at me.
I don't have the answer, so I'll let you
Yeah,
solve it.
Unless the board wants to institute some sort of investigation where the city, probably me, or the city prosecutor, I suppose, could, go around and start interviewing witnesses and see if you can find anything out. I think that's a pretty difficult process, and I think it gets kind of expensive if it's not very, and I think it could be, the chances that it will likely be unproductive because it's a difficult thing to determine.
Or could we just have an agreement that it's okay to discuss executive session? That way we can all get our side out instead of one person saying what they want.
Well, I think the board has a right to decide that something in executive session can be made public if that's what they want to do.
This has been going on for a long time.
That would have to be on an individual basis. So in other words, if there's a particular item that the board that was discussed in closed session that the board would like discussed in a public venue, the board could vote, I think, to do that. But it would have to be specific and based on each item rather than, I suppose you could just decide not to have closed meetings anymore, but I wouldn't recommend that, because there's a lot of information that I, as your city attorney, would discuss with you that could put the city in a difficult position with respect to any litigation, could encourage litigation. So I think there's a number of things. There's employee information that absolutely should not come out, because that would violate their rights under different sections of the code and the law. So you can't really do a blanket one. So if you're going to do anything with regards to a closed session, I think it has to be a specific item, very specific about what you would want the board, put it on the agenda, have some discussion about whether to do it, and then vote yea or nay.
It doesn't seem to do any good when it just gets leaked out anyway.
Information.
Anything else?
Yeah, the executive information.
All right. Alderman Miller.
Got enough?
Alderman Dickerson. Alderman Long.
I'm good.
Alderman Turner.
Last night, I had a chance to go to the park and watch the first, hopefully annual cardboard boat race that was done with schools. It's a really neat event, had a lot of public participation there. I mean, there's gobs of people and kids had fun. I enjoyed watching it. And hopefully next year will be bigger and better.
19 boats they had.
They had 19.
Yeah.
Most of them made it across.
Yeah, I think the majority of them actually made it, yeah.
Yeah, 2 or 3 saw it, but other than that,
You know,
really pretty good.
They typically have a party at the swimming pool to kick off football season, and the pool was unavailable, so this was their brainchild idea, which I think was fantastic. It was a nice crowd, and we talked to the coaches afterwards about next year really need to do more to promote it further, because I think a lot of people missed out on some real quality entertainment. That was really fun. I could see churches getting involved and having their youth groups build a boat. I will say this, we learned real quickly, the boat isn't as important as how good the paddle is. So, yeah, that was a great event. So, anything else, Alderman Turner?
Nope, that's it.
Alderman Lee? No. Mr. Welch?
Just one item to draw your attention to. You've got an update. Item 3, State Auditor's Office completed their follow-up visit last week, and they have taken back some paperwork that they requested. And what the follow-up auditor will do is give the information to Todd Schuler. He's the auditor that's been overseeing our audit. There was no timetable as to when we'll get a response back or a regrade, so we'll just have to wait and see. I know they're in the middle of a number of other audits at this point, so it may be a couple of months before we hear anything. But that has been completed, and we still have some items, though, to do next year that we will be budgeting for. We're requesting budgeting for, but things we need to take care of. That's all I got, unless you have any questions about my memo.
I've had people ask, oh, did you have something before I started?
Before you started, I mentioned this in Finance Committee meeting the other night, but the city is offering a interactive voice response system for your utility bills. So we're sending out all that information in the utility bills that will go out on the 16th, and actually the 20th. I think they leave our office on the 16th, I apologize. But that, we've tested it. We've had a few customers that we've asked, would you mind, running through this? We give them the information. So when you call in the office, we can transfer you to that number, or it'll be published so that there'll be information out there so that you can dial that number directly. It requires you to have your balance or the amount that you want to pay. It will give you your balance. But the amount that you want to pay, your account number, it will verify your street address to make sure that it's talking to somebody who knows what they're talking about, although we'll take your money no matter what. And so it's still, it pays with a credit card or a debit card. There's the $4 fee that's associated with that, as always, just like it is with the website. But it's another piece that will help streamline some processes and free up some staff time with taking credit card payments over the phone on those days when penalties apply and everybody's trying to get it paid before the penalty, or they're trying to pay it before the admin fees. So those those go up extreme. So that's just an extra service that we're offering our citizens to give them a technology piece that some want, some don't, so just, and so let's look for more information.
When to make a payment with this new system, when does it post? That day?
Immediately.
Immediately?
And so, and we were watching it when we were doing the 25th, right before shutoffs. So we would send a transfer, you know, we would like, we're gonna transfer you to this is what you need, and this is the, you know, so we would go through that, and then within a couple of minutes, we'll pull that information up, and it will be posted to their account as a pending payment, and it'll be in a packet, which is a packet that's generated that will reconcile those back out. So we get reports, just like we did with the website, and so it works really, really nicely and is instantaneous. Because some people don't have, they got their phone in their hand, but they don't have any internet access, so they can't, you know, but they've got their information, they want to pay it so that they don't have to pay more than they need to avoid penalties and what have you. So hopefully everybody will want to take advantage of that also. So just one more piece.
Just a question that brought up something from when we did residency verification the other night at the school. And there was a number of people who came in and on their bill it had, you know, pay before this date to avoid disconnect. And the statement I kept hearing over and over and over was, well, some of them, well, it does auto draft but yet it doesn't post until, you know, set amount of days afterwards. And I was thinking, well, that just doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but.
Is it auto dropped out of their account?
Yes.
If they do it through their bank, it could be that I know with our bank
That it takes a while
payment,
to process?
It actually cuts a check, an electronic check, which
Yes.
can
Yeah.
take more than a day
Yes.
instead of being a
And
wire.
mail time.
Yes.
Whereas if you're on the level pay, they actually draft it out of your account on, say, the 15th
The
or
15th.
the first business day after the 15th if it falls on a weekend, so.
Right.
Marcy, the utilities are due on the 1st, cut off on the 25th, that's 25 days to pay it.
It should be there in the
I
mail.
mean, you know, so.
I was curious.
So yeah,
You know,
they're
you hear
probably,
something over and over and over, it
they're
makes you
probably referring
curious
to
about
a draft from through their online banking as opposed to if you're on the level pay, it's set up you have to set it up for an automated draft. And I love it because I don't have to worry about it. My utility bill's paid every month and I don't have to worry about it.
And we fronted those because it's like, well, we took it out of my bank account on this day. How come you don't have it posted to my account yet? Because it issues a check, and sometimes we don't have those checks yet, you know, and sometimes we don't ever get those checks, and then that creates a whole other issue.
Just here.
All right. Now, back to the audit. I've had several people ask me, they'd like to know what's going on with that. Obviously, I haven't provided an update of any kind yet because I kind of wanted to wait until the auditor came back and told us how we did on the changes we made and where we stood. I would hate to say, oh, I think we did a great job, and then come back and say, no, you didn't. Now, I am fairly confident what we have done has addressed all the issues. We've been in communication with them on most everything that they found to make sure that our solution was something they felt was equitable. So as soon as that does come out, we will get something out publicly to let everyone know. Last Wednesday, I was unavailable for the finance meeting. I apologize, but I had the opportunity to go meet with our new governor in a mayor's roundtable meeting, and I have to say, he's a very nice gentleman, very well grounded. I think he's just what Missouri needed right now, was a little bit of stability. He knows what Missouri needs right now. It's workforce development and infrastructure. Those are the two things that Missouri needs to focus on. But he's been getting out, hitting the streets, talking to local communities, finding out what they need. He's actually from Bolivar, Missouri. I think he grew up in Hermitage, so he's from a small town, so he understands small towns. But very nice gentleman. If you ever get an opportunity to meet him, I highly recommend it. Our water treatment plant, if I understand correctly, is functional with the new system. Am I correct? They're working on purging lines right now, but we're having the dedication a week from tomorrow, and it should be fully functional at that point if it's not already. So start paying attention to your water. Hopefully there will be a difference in taste and odor. I've already noticed a difference when I wash my hands with certain soaps. It feels like it's not quite as hard of water as it used to be, so I'm very excited about that. Last thing I have on my list tonight, you know, there's rumors that float around, and sometimes I think it's important to address those.
I've heard comments made that this particular administration has run businesses out of this town or have blocked businesses from coming to this town. I understood there's been board members that have actually shared this information. If you sit on this board, you know that we have not turned any business away. It's not the city's policy or practices to run businesses off, turn them away. The way you run a business off is not working with them, not having user-friendly codes, not finding ways to compromise when there's a challenge before you. And I think we have worked very hard at doing that. We may not have granted a couple of tax abatements that were asked for, but that is by no way blocking business from coming to this town. We are all about any new businesses looking to come to this town, with the exception of maybe a few that we have a list that I'm sure you all could think of those. But we have been open to business coming, and we hope that more businesses look at our town, and that's why we are spending the money on our infrastructure, is trying to make our town more attractive to potential businesses, which will bring more people to our community. So with that, I will leave you tonight. I encourage everyone to go vote. It's a big election. Do your homework. Lots of signs out there, but read for yourself what candidates stand for and what's out there. But more importantly, just go vote. So anyway, that's all I have.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Motion from Alderman Dickerson, second from Alderman Long. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed?
It's too
We are
early.
adjourned. Thank you.
See, this is kind of connected.